Awesome. So this week's session is being recorded. So anyone that's obviously late or whatever the case is will be able to catch up. We're going to upload this on YouTube. So we'll start off with our AUDCAD, get straight into things, waste no more time. We'll go up to the daily. So on most of these pairs, what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be evolving with the structure, because obviously structures are changing a little bit or a lot depending on how you look at it. So obviously we're just evolving with the structures, and then obviously we're looking for trading opportunities. So we'll still keep in mind what the technical analysis obviously tells us, because like we said last week, the technical analysis are the facts, and then the forecast is basically what we plan to do in preparation for if obviously our plan does follow through. So on AUDCAD, what we're going to be doing, guys, is we're still going to be looking for that upside continuation. But obviously, we need to evolve with the structure. We still keep our bias the same as it was. All the reasoning still stands. We've got if we just look at the most recent momentum, we'll be able to obviously generate a nice bias. We've got all of this bullish momentum. We've got these equal lows. Obviously, we wanted to see price action break below these equal lows, and then we're looking for our reversal structures for upside momentum below these lows, obviously in continuation with this initial momentum over there. So nonetheless, what we do have is our last week, same bias as we did have last week, or at least same analysis as we did have last week. What we were looking for last week was we were looking for some downside. We were hoping that price action breaks this low. Obviously, we continue just a little bit lower to terminate somewhere inside of our POI, and then obviously we were going to be looking for our longs from that POI. But price action decided to stay inside of this range. We had a small supply over there, but nonetheless, yes, we're stuck inside of a range. Let's just drop down into the 4-hour. We'll speak about the price action, and then obviously we'll formulate what our plan is for next week. So still, yes, we do have a nice bullish bias over there, but obviously because we're stuck inside of a range, we need to treat the price action like how we treat ranges. Ranges, obviously, we look for selling probabilities from the high of the range, buying probabilities from the low of the range. Since we want to be buyers, what we've got to do is we've got to wait for price action to pull down towards the low of the range. Now, at least, unfortunately, we didn't break this high here. It would have been nice to see price action break this high with all of these wicks over here. But we didn't see price action break this high, but we do still have a momentum shift over here where we see a large amount of buyers coming into the market, being able to break this small time frame structures inside of here. Hopefully, we're coming back for this high. Hopefully, we're coming back for that high. But anyway, we're stuck inside of a range. We're looking for price action to basically just pull down towards the low of the range. And once we're down at the low of the range, I don't know what price actions going to choose to do inside of here. But whatever structure we choose to develop inside of here, hopefully we'll have a nice termination of a structure. At our POI, obviously, we'll then look to enter long in the same directional bias that we've had from last week. All that's different is that price action obviously didn't. Last week when we looked at price action, we were right here, somewhere right here. And obviously, we had one of two scenarios. Either price action obviously doesn't break the structure, or when we do break the structure, we're looking for our reversals for the upside. So obviously, price action didn't break the structure, and we just adjust and accommodate for the new price action and the new information that we've got. New information that we've got is that we're stuck inside of a range, but within this range, there is someone that is willing to aggressively buy. Maybe we can say this is the last time we saw a bunch of aggressive sellers, but cool. Most recent price action obviously will tell us what buyers and sellers are doing in the moment or in the current environment. Nonetheless, we're 100% bullish on AUDCAD. This is the setup that we're looking at. So the JPY code pairs AJ and NJ. Okay, let me just go through all our pairs just so that we understand what my plan is for next week. So we've got AUDCAD, right? We know AUDCAD is going to be positively correlated to AUDJPY and AUDUSD. Obviously, if AUD is the main controller, if AUD moves the markets, then all of these pairs will be moving in a similar direction. Out of these pairs, I'm going to choose not to trade AJ. We're going to go and explain why. But otherwise, we're going to be using AUDUSD basically to just hedge strength. We are only bullish on AUDCAD, but on AUDUSD, what we're going to be doing for the week is that we're going to be bullish and we're going to be bearish. We were bullish last week. We'll still keep that bias, but there's now also going to be a bearish setup that's forming that maybe if the probabilities are good enough, let's just ride it and see where it takes us. So just to go through our pairs, we spoke about AUDCAD. Is also correlated with NZD-CAD, obviously because they both share CAD as the code currency. Because they're both positively correlated because of the CAD currency, It means that they're both going to be moving in the same direction if obviously CAD is the main mover of what's going on there. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, since we're trading these pairs in the same direction, we kind of need to just spread our risk, and we obviously just need to see which setups provide themselves first and obviously which ones have better probabilities. But nonetheless, we're going on to AJ now. We're also not going to be trading NJ because we're going to be looking at CHFJPY out of these three JPY code pairs. Swiss yen is in the best place for the probabilities for the short. Otherwise, let's just speak about AJ. We'll get to NJ when we get there. But we'll just go through and I'll just tell you guys why I'm going to be choosing to stay out of AJ. So AJ, obviously, we're stuck inside some chop JPY code pair. We're back inside the chop. We're looking for those structures, all of that nice, good stuff. We can see that on a 4-hour, or at least last week, what we did was we were looking for some sort of a short or some sort of a rejection at a couple of these POIs. I think we were looking at this first POI. No, we weren't looking at this POI. We were looking at this POI over here. We were looking at this POI. We can see that price action obviously violated the POI and we broke back below. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be staying out of AJ, obviously, because we violated our POI. We see that there's a lot of momentum. And aside from all of this momentum, we're stuck inside of a higher time frame range. There's the low, there's the high. We're stuck inside. We're somewhere in the middle. And because there's so much volatility and we're in the middle, I'm going to be choosing to just stay out until a clear structure presents itself. And obviously, once there's a clear structure, there's better probabilities, then all systems go, we start trading again. But otherwise, let's just go on to AU and we'll see what's going on in AU. We go back up to a daily. So on AU, remember I told you guys that we're going to be looking for both a sell and a buy on AU. Obviously, we'll just accommodate for whatever the price action decides to give us. But if we just recap on last week, I'm not going to go into last week's bullish bias because we spoke about it last week. We'll just speak about the bearish bias. So just to recap on the bullish bias, we've got higher time frame momentum there. This is our overall corrective structure. We're expecting the next momentum here. We also have this inverse head and shoulders over here. We're expecting some sort of a termination of a right shoulder before we find bullish momentum, right? Now, inside of all of this, we've got this most recent momentum to the upside, obviously giving us a new higher high. So this is the momentum that we're trying to trade inside of. All we done is we observed where do we have some nice momentum shift. There's our momentum shift there. We use the 4-hour to refine this zone. And obviously we're looking for a hopeful buy inside of here for the upside momentum. Now, obviously, if we start to look at what's going on inside of here, we've got momentum to the downside, giving us a new lower low, obviously breaking below this low. And we obviously have price action starting to move sideways. So we've got some sort of a corrective structure. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be accommodating for a potential sell biased setup. All we're doing, very simple. We've got our first touch here. We've got a nice second touch there. All we're waiting for is for price action to come up towards this resistance over here. And obviously, we pay attention to price action. We look for our chart patterns. Once we get a chart pattern that gives us some sort of an entry, then obviously we're doing the things to be done. And we're hoping that we see some downside momentum, hopefully to give us the overall buy. So all we're doing is we're just accommodating. We've got some momentum. We see price action stalling for a very long time. We're moving sideways. We're stuck inside of a range. Anytime we're in a range, obviously, we're looking for bullish bias trading opportunities from the low and obviously bearish bias trading opportunities from the high. And as we approach the high of this range, it makes a lot more sense for us to be sellers rather than buyers. We still have our overall buy that we're looking for, but just a little bit lower. So otherwise, let's move on to New Zealand dollar CAD. We see what New Zealand dollar CAD has for us there. Cool. So on New Zealand dollar CAD, I did tell you guys that New Zealand dollar CAD and AUDCAD are positively correlated. So we basically have a similar setup on both of these pairs. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. So New Zealand dollar CAD, we basically got this upside momentum. We've got our beautiful corrective structure over there. Obviously, we've got corrective price action. We've got this low here that we've broken below. We've broken back above. And simple enough, we're expecting some sort of a retest of this level of structure for the upside continuation in the direction of this overall momentum that we spoke about initially. Now, to drop down onto a 4-hour, things are going to become a little bit more clear, but also a little bit more confusing because we don't have a POI that we can use on a 4-hour. All we've got to function of is this level of structure here, this low. So all we're going to be doing over the course of next week is we're going to be waiting for the chart pattern, obviously, to give us or to present to us probabilities to be able to buy New Zealand dollar CAD. Simple enough, we're waiting for some sort of a structure that terminates somewhere in or around this support trend line over here, or this horizontal support. That's where we'll be looking for some sort of continuation for upside momentum. Hopefully we find the setup, but the setup is kind of almost almost similar to this setup over here. Just I guess no, it's not really different. It's kind of the same. I guess we're waiting for corrections to basically jump into upside momentum. They're basically the same. There's no even need to use extra English. We're in impulsive phases. We're waiting for corrective structures to involve ourselves in the resulting momentum. So that's both AUDCAD, NZD-CAD. We're looking for those buys. NJ, I'm just going to explain to you guys on a daily, not even drop down to the 4-hour, why I'm not trading this pair. Still, we're stuck inside higher time frame chop. And the more we chop, the more difficult it is to isolate these structures. We're at resistance right now, so obviously it makes sense to be a seller rather than to be a buyer. But I'm still not comfortable given what's going on inside of here to be trading NJ. So I'm going to stay out of New Zealand dollar yen for next week. Let's just go on to some US30. So for US30, we'll start off on a 4-hour. So basically on a 4-hour, what we're going to be doing is we're not going to speak about what we spoke about last week, but we're going to adjust and accommodate for what happened over the space of last week. So just to adjust and accommodate for what we had over the space of last week. We've got momentum. We're just focused on the fact that we're stuck inside some sort of a corrective structure, right? This being the high of the range, this being the low of the range. Now, like we said last week, we're going to be trying to do one of two things, right? We're either going to be looking to try and buy US30 or we're going to be trying to look to sell US30. We've got a directional bias in both directions. Though US30 is our contingency to try and hold sells, NASDAQ is our contingency to try and hold buys. We're still trying to look for higher time frame momentum in different directions on these pairs. So let's speak about US30. So US30, obviously, we're going to speak about two setups, both a bullish setup and a bearish setup. So for us to be looking for a buy, things are fairly simple. This is the low of the range. We've got some momentum here to the upside. All we're going to be doing is waiting for that corrective structure over here that terminates somewhere in the low of the range to give us a reason to buy. For us to be able to sell, I've isolated a young POI there on a 15-minute. All we're going to be doing is just waiting for price action to come, give us some sort of a structure that terminates inside of our POI if we do get one. If we do, then that's our reason to sell from the high of this range. So simple enough for US30, I do have directional biases in both directions. All we need to do is just wait for price action to come to one of the extremes and give us a reason to take action. That's simple. So US30, we are primarily, or at least let me say for myself, I am primarily bearish. I do want to hope to jump into sells on US30 and then use NASDAQ to try and jump into buys. So on NASDAQ, also last week, I guess we covered a little bit of what our biases are. We did say that NASDAQ, yes, we are trying to be buyers on NASDAQ. We're trying to buy NASDAQ as much as possible. But at the same time, if price action does come into or tap, let me just check what's going on in the chats there. I just see some, okay, a POI. Did I say POI? Thanks, guys, for just responding there. I appreciate that, guys. I really, really, really do appreciate that. Did I say POI? I don't know why I'm speaking in abbreviation. Sorry, guys. I'll say point of interest next time. I'll say point of interest. Otherwise, just to recap on last week, the reason why we spoke about this being a significant high for us to be looking to sell from is because this is the last source of supply that managed to break some sort of a support or whatever the case was. So obviously, the closer price action gets to this resistance, the more I'm going to want to be a seller. The only two places I am looking to sell is at either one of these two POIs here. So with regards to the sell, things are fairly simple. Things look exactly the same as last week. We're just waiting, exercising patience. If price action or if some sort of a structure terminates inside of these POIs, I'm going to try and see if we can short NASDAQ. Otherwise, in terms of the buy, what we have here is price action, basically, I guess, confirming what we are looking for. Let's just drop down into a 1 hour, just so that we have a little bit more detail there. So NASDAQ, right, we want to be buyers, right? we're seeing impulsive moves to the upside, which is what we want to see. We're seeing corrective structures to the downside, which is awesome. We're seeing more impulsive structures to the upside, which is great. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to play it a little bit safe, right? If we want to be buyers, we're at resistance right now, right? We can't be a buyer at resistance. What we've got to do is we've got to exercise patience and wait for that corrective structure to terminate inside of our point of interest. Inside of our point of interest, which is basically our momentum shift, where we see people taking the type of action that we want to take. We want to be buyers. We're looking for something like a bullish engulfing, which is what this is. A small red candlestick, big green candlestick. A bullish engulfing shows us some type of a momentum shift for 4 hours, or in this case, I'm on a 1 hour. So for 1 hours, sellers were in control. In the next hours, there was a lot more buyers coming into the market for some reason, a lot more buyers than they had been previously. So obviously this shows that somewhere around this price region, buyers showed interest. So what I want to do is I want to trade where other people are making the types of decisions that I'm trying to make. So all I'm going to be doing is just waiting for that corrective structure to terminate somewhere inside of our point of interest. And then we'll see for our opportunity to long NASDAQ. Very simple. So with regards to the sell, we'll wait and see when price action gets there. How do we get there, and what structures do we present when we get to these PRIs? And those will be the defining factors for us to be able to make sell bias trading decisions. Let's go on to some SUSIEN. So like we said, SUSIEN is the only JPY code pair that I'm going to be looking to make decisions on over the course of next week. But I'm also going to be trying to look to play it safe and just delete this. I don't even know what the hell this is doing here. I'm also going to be trying to look. I'm also going to be trying to play it safe and just look for reduced risk entries only. But conclusion, maybe let's just look at the high time frame structure one more time. On a daily, I'm just going to take into account context as to where we are within the structure and what's happening where we are right now. So where I am within the structure, I can see that I'm at this resistance area over there. Obviously, price action is there. We broke above and we broke back below. So obviously, corrective price action, because price action was able to break and close above and break back and close below the structure. Now, dropping down onto a 4 hour, we've been trying to sell SUSIEN for the longest of time. I think we were looking for an opportunity inside of here, but we didn't manage to find an entry. But nonetheless, we adjusted the structure, and obviously we observed this resistance and this support and whatever the case is. I'm trying to figure out whether I spoke about this last week. Did I? Yes, I did. I do. I think I do remember telling you guys about impulsive trends and corrective trends and all of that kind of stuff. I think I do remember going over it. I just don't remember when it was, but I do remember going over it. But otherwise, yes, we see impulsive price action throughout, but I want to take into account what's happening now in the most recent for our structure over here. So in the most recent 4 hour structure, we see signs of some corrective behavior, because this is the first resistance that we have here. That price action broke above, we can even say with momentum, that we see sellers even managing to push price action back below. And we even see a little bit of momentum along with, I guess, our corrective price action. So with all this being said, I'm going to be looking to try and short SUSIEN. We are still in a bullish market, obviously, because price action hasn't broken below. This is the last source of momentum to the upside. So as long as we're inside of this impulsive, this is still a buyer's market, right? We'll only know it's a seller's market once we see price action breaking below this low. What does that mean? That means that there's more sellers involved in the current environment than there were buyers that bought from here, because we broke this support. That'll be the only sign to us that there are now more sellers than there are buyers involved in this impulsive move. Until that happens, we're still inside of a bullish market. That's why I'm saying that I'm going to be looking for those reduced risk entries only. So on a 4 hour, this is a POI that we've got inside of there. Do I want to go down to a smaller time frame? Not really, but I just want to show you guys why I'm also going to be looking at that area there. On a 1 hour, basically, we've got this impulsive move here. We've got a resistance. We've got a support over here. And you guys can see that this support somewhat aligns with that point of interest that we're looking for. That nice 4 hour momentum shift that we see somewhat aligns. So that's why I'm going to be choosing to use this area rather than any other area to try and look for those reduced risk entries. So all I'm going to be doing is, let's just stop, go back up to a 4 hour, because we don't need to be down there. Let's move this to the side. all I'm going to be doing is same thing as we've always just been doing. We need to wait to see price action come to our POI. And when we're there, we're always paying attention to two things. How does price action get to where I want to make decisions? And when price action is here where I want to make decisions, we ask ourselves the second question. What is price doing at this area where I want to make decisions? And those two pieces of information will always be more than enough for me to say, buy now, sell now, or whatever the case is, because I've got my forecast, right? I've got my plan. I know what I'm planning to do over the space of next week. All I'm waiting for is just for the confirmation. The confirmation is a structure that corrects or terminates, whether it's a down, it can be an ascending structure. It can end up being some sort of a head and shoulder structure. But does it terminate inside of where I want to trade? That is going to be the defining factor. I want some sort of a structure that terminates inside of where I want to be making decisions. And that's going to be obviously my indication to make that sell decision. So in Susian, I'm looking for that reduced risk entry, which means that price action must break structure in the direction that we're looking to trade first before we find an entry. So obviously we want to see some sort of a support, whether it's on a 1 hour, whether it's on a 15-minute. If there's a chart pattern on a 15-minute, I want to see some sort of a support on a 15-minute being broken first before I look for my entry. I think I'm 100% done with the pairs. We went through them nice and fast because a lot of them we went through them last week, and this week was basically just a follow-up and basically evolving with the structures. So let me just check if there aren't any questions there. If there aren't any questions in the chat, then we'll call it a session and let there be peace in the streets. I don't see anything there in the chats. Danko, thanks, Demblizo. We'll see you guys there in the groups. But otherwise, let there be peace there in the streets. Let our brothers and sisters be safe. Thanks, guys, for being part of the session. I'll see you guys in the groups.